President Biden is meeting with groups of Democratic senators to try to salvage his sweeping domestic agenda, particularly protecting the right to vote. Joining us now with the latest, ABC News political director Rick Klein. Rick, this was a Democratic Party clarion call after the election because of the former President Donald Trump's attacks on the election, because of what Republicans are doing across the country. So has President Biden made any progress in getting the party together to do a deal on voting rights?
He has made progress in getting his party united, but where he hasn't had any success is getting Republicans to buy into the concept. Right now, we expect that this bill is going to fail in the Senate, despite getting the support of all 50 Democrats, including Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia, whose buy-in was critical on this. But that's not going to be enough to overcome a Republican filibuster. As of now, according to our Capitol Hill team, there are no expected Republican defections, and that means it will die on the vine, despite a year-long lobbying effort, despite some action just outside the White House today that involves some activists getting arrested to try to make a point about this. A real concern about how it was prioritized, but ultimately, Terry, it was some brutal math that dooms this effort. There were no Republicans who were willing to participate in any of the conversations with Democrats on federal voting rights reforms.
You know, Rick, the president of the NAACP, a historic organization that's been pushing for voting rights in this country for more than a century, slammed the Biden administration and the president, saying there's just a lack of urgency here. He called it, quote, appalling. What does the White House say in return to that from a voice from one of the crucial parts of the Democratic base?
Well, they say they share the frustration, but that it should be directed at Senate Republicans who are set to block this bill. But there's no mistaking the fact that at times President Biden has been quite energized on this subject, calling it Jim Crow 2.0. Even today, the White House saying that it's flatly unacceptable, leaving it, though, to the Senate to try to figure out what to do about it. President Biden, former President Obama, and many others have said this is the kind of issue that's so fundamental to democracy that there should be a carve-out in the filibuster rules. They've urged Senate Democrats to take this up and to try to do that end around of the normal processes, if not blow up the filibuster entirely. Problem is they don't have unity on that question among Democrats. And until or unless you have 50 senators who say they're going to change the votes, the magic number in the Senate remains 60. You're going to have Republicans on board. So it will be a question, I think, that lingers as to whether the White House could have played the hand differently, whether President Biden could have put as much attention into this issue as he has, say, trying to sell those two packages that are now stalled among Democrats on Capitol Hill. But it does appear like these are the last gasps at major voting rights reform at the federal level, despite the way that the big lie spread by former President Trump has inspired some 15-plus states to change their laws to make it harder to vote.
Perfect segue, because Trump always seems to enter into the conversation, especially right now. He really never has left the conversation, Rick, but the House Select Committee continuing to investigate the January 6th insurrection. We're expecting a vote tonight on whether former Trump advisor Steve Bannon will actually be held in contempt of Congress. What do you think? Is Bannon ultimately going to have to decide whether to comply or go to jail?
Well, they're going to do what they can to try to force him to comply, if for no other reason than to make an example out of Steve Bannon and to send a signal to other people that might have information relevant to this committee that they're not there to fool around. This is going to be a fascinating evening, Kira. This is not a lot of drama around this vote. The committee is expected to do this pretty swiftly, move it on to the full House of Representatives to take a similar vote, and then refer the matter to the Department of Justice. But it's not as if Capitol Hill or any congressional committee has a bunch of cops that they can send out to go enforce a subpoena like this. It would be left to the executive branch and the Justice Department under Attorney General Garland as to what to do about this. This, though, is about more than Steve Bannon. This is about sending a signal that they are playing for keeps, that they are serious about this investigation that is heating up right now, and that they're serious about getting the information that might be relevant to former President Trump and those around him up to and including the events of January 6th.
And no surprise here, as the vote comes less than 24 hours after former President Trump filed a lawsuit aimed at withholding those January 6 related White House documents from Congress. What do you think? Will the committee get what they need, or is Trump going to be able to run out the clock? There's still so much interest on behalf of that committee on the comms that went down that day. Who did he talk to? Did he not listen to Mark Meadows when Mark Meadows said, hey, you've got to change the conversation here, the language that you're using? A lot of people really want to know what happened that day.
Yeah, and look, a lot of the process is going to take time to play out, and that plays into the hands of former President Trump and his supporters that may want to wait out this committee as much as possible. If you look at some of the requests that they have for the National Archives process, it would take months and months for a full review of documents, to have a chance for the former president's lawyers to review them as well. That's why this fight is so important right now, because the current administration says that they're not going to stand in the way, and they have directed the National Archives to produce these documents. This, though, slows the process. This court challenge and others that might develop like it, all they do is stretch this out. And the Trump team knows that the longer they frustrate Congress, the closer they get to next year's elections, the more they make it look like politics, potentially even have a change in power if the Republicans take over Congress about a year from now. So they feel like they've got some time on their side. But the committee, as I said, Kira, has been digging in and is expecting a lot more documents via subpoenas and via other means in the coming days and weeks. They are just getting started in terms of trying to connect those dots.
And maybe the best sign of how hard they're working on that committee has been no leaks. Generally a serious sign from
Lots
Congress.
of time. Lots of time ahead.
Lots of time for leaks ahead. Rick Klein, thanks very much.
Thank you, guys.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.